Hello, this is a presentation on the View Sensitive Overlay District private application, which is part of the 2020 annual amendment package for the city of Tacoma. And this is a presentation at the open house on September 30th, 2020. My name is Larry Harlan. I'm a senior planner in the Long Range Planning Group in City of Tacoma Planning and Development Services Department. So to give a quick overview here, I'm going to talk really briefly about what the amendment process entails. I'm going to give a description of the proposal and just a little bit of background on it. I'm going to give a little information on the next steps, and then really importantly at the end of the presentation, I'm going to give information on how you can comment at the upcoming Planning Commission public hearing. And then I'm going to give information on how you can get to even more info on this, the staff report and some of the technical reports on this proposal as well at the amendment website. So the amendment process, and this is a private amendment application, but the process is really the same for city initiated amendments as well. We accept private amendments every other year, and we have an annual amendment process that we engage in every year. So for this amendment, it started with the application, which was submitted in early April of 2019. Scoping went from April through July, and the Planning Commission at that time considered whether or not to accept the application. Once they decided to accept the application in July, we moved into the review and analysis and stakeholder and community engagement portion of this consideration, and we're really close just next week to the Planning Commission public hearing. Now, I'll also point out that after that, the Planning Commission will accept public comment at the public hearing and then decide what they want to do with this proposal after that at a subsequent meeting. And then after that, this will track on to the City Council. They will have a review and also public hearing, and then they'll decide what to do, whether or not to adopt or not. And if they do adopt, we'll be out to implementation. Now, we're hoping that we get through council by the end of December. And so stay tuned on that. So just a quick word here on the spectrum of planning and development. And so we really start with kind of the earliest and highest level stuff, and that's our comprehensive plan and our community planning, side of things. And this is not that. This is, we're really talking about, this proposal really hits to zoning. An overlay district is really a type of zoning. And this is really where the early phases here are where residents of Tacoma can really have the biggest input. As we move toward permit submission and then things coming out of the ground, construction, that's usually too late for people to really have much impact at all, unless things are happening without permits. At that point, entitlements have been granted and permits have been issued, and so there's very little input folks can have. So it's really important, if however you feel about this, that we get your public comment at the Planning Commission and City Council. And so this is just kind of a slide with a reminder of that primarily. The proposal itself, so the proposal is one that would create a second category of view-sensitive overlay district with a 20-foot building height limit, in addition to the existing view-sensitive overlay with a 20-foot building height limit. The applicant was Narrow-Moor Neighborhood Coalition. And so to give a quick background on this, so the city of Tacoma has had since 1989 a view-sensitive overlay district with a 25-foot height restriction in place. And so again, this proposal would be to create a second category with a 20-foot limitation. But in all other respects, it would be identical to the existing view-sensitive overlay district. So what I was talking about, the view-sensitive overlay district, you can see depicted here in the orange. It's about 11% of the city of Tacoma, something on the order of about 9,000 lots. And the original application area was simply just this area numbered 1 here. This is the Narrowmore neighborhood. And through the scoping process, it was discussed and decided that, look, if we're going to consider this kind of proposal, we really should be looking citywide within all the view sensitive overlay areas to see if there's other similar areas out there. And that's what happened. And so you'll see the purple. So we had the initial study area that was identified by using LIDAR data, which I'll explain here in a few slides. And then after engaging the consultant and developing criteria, we've narrowed it down even more. And that's what you see the purple areas are on this map here. So that's the final recommended VSD 20. So one more mention about zoning and what an overlay district is. So the zoning and the proposed change, this is really a code change and a zoning change. And this would occur, our zoning exists in Tacoma Municipal Code Title 13. And the big thing, of course, with this overlay district is it really is there simply to create this height limitation in a specific area of the city. So the criteria that we developed working with our consultant, of course, we wanted to keep it within the existing view sensitive overlay areas. We wanted it to be supported by the LIDAR data. So what that means really is that we had very strong evidence that the areas that we were talking about had height profiles really at or below 20 feet. Oops. And that the slope, and that's kind of what you see here on this is a slope map here, that the slope is more than 5%, but less than 15. And the reason that was used is that if there's less than a 5% slope, there's a high likelihood that there's really not going to be a view of anything. Everybody's on kind of flat ground. And then if there's more than 15%, you're actually in areas where the slope is really taking care of the view problem, because homes below are going to be so much further below the home above that you don't necessarily need to have a height limitation, certainly not one like a 20-foot height limitation. And then of course we want to make sure that there's actually views of the Puget Sound, water views, and views of or the Narrows Bridge. So what is LIDAR? LIDAR essentially, it's using the GPS satellites up in orbit, and it's using essentially a laser pulses, so the type of laser radar, and it's triangulated with GPS ground stations, and they're able to essentially stitch images of what's on the ground and get really accurate readings as far as how in this case, how high things are. And so just by stitching these layers together, a really cool picture comes together. And what that allows us to do is to see how high things are. And you can see, we can differentiate what trees are, what structures are, and then we can also see what the slope is like in a given area. So our outreach, and I'm not going to talk about each one of these, but we've done multiple open house meetings. We, of course, had outreach during the scoping process. And then tonight we have the virtual open house. Of course, we're going to have the public hearing coming up for Planning Commission and then City Council. During our review, our analysis phase, we worked with makers, an architectural and urban design firm out of Seattle, and they were able to help us create some other data sets to help even more kind of fine tuning on the evaluation of this. And we're able to do view cone analysis and develop cross-section, sort of the prototypical cross-sections of each of the areas, and get a sense for what made the areas different and similar, and also just kind of further analyze the views and what view impacts would be with the existing overlay versus a 20-foot overlay. And if you'd like that, even more detailed information, I'm going to talk about the website that you can go to and get to the staff report and get to that technical data here in another slide or two. So our next steps, of course, the big next step, which I've mentioned several times now, it's the public hearing on October 7th The meeting starts at 5. However, the hearing is slated to start at 5:30. After that, the Planning Commission at subsequent meeting will review the public testimony, and then they'll consider final modifications to the proposal before this goes on to City Council for its consideration. So get to the public hearing. This is going to be just like the meeting tonight. It'll be a Zoom meeting, and an easy way maybe for most folks will be to go to the website, and this website is where the technical data, the staff report, and where we're going to keep things updated for this proposal. It's cityoftacoma.org/2020 amendment. And actually this information above here on the Zoom information is on that web page. It's usually a lot more convenient just to kind of click the links the night of the meeting. You'll be able to use Zoom on your computer, your phone, or if you want, you can dial in and just listen, via phone only. And so this is the relevant information for that. The way that we want public comment, so this isn't going to be like a normal public hearing where you would come down to City Hall and get up on the microphone and give your public comment. We're asking for written comment only, and we'd like that at this email address, planning@cityoftacoma.org. We're accepting that actually through the Friday after the meeting through October 9th. And if you have any further questions or concerns after the meeting tonight, or if there's folks in the area who could not attend and they'd like to ask questions or get more information, you can feel free to email me or call me. That's my direct line. And then, like I said, a great resource that we're going to keep updated is the cityoftacoma.org/2020 amendment website. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop which is the recorded portion of this presentation, and I'm going to move into the live presentation of the maps here in just a second.